In high school, we were always judged on the things we do, the things we say, and the way we act. We all judge others, most of the time without even realizing that we are. But we never stop to think what has made people the way they are. Things happen in everyone's lives that no one sees, but that can affect that person's whole life, sometimes forever. And a lot of the time, it's not even one thing. It's a lot of things all leading together and it just being one hard situation after another. Like a parent getting sick, the death of a family member, and a divorce that you never saw coming. In January of my freshman year, right after my family and I had gotten back from a trip to Oregon, my parents sat my brother and I down in the living room and gave us news that I never saw coming. They told us that they were getting divorced. It took a lot of questions and yelling, but I finally got out of my mom the idea that was in the back of my mind that I was hoping wasn't true. She finally told me that she was in love with someone else, her friend Carrie. I also learned that my parents had decided that they would be getting divorced the previous summer, but had waited this long because they didn't want to ruin the holidays for me and my brother. How can I not see this coming? How could my mom do this? Why was this happening? My questions never really had time to be answered because my dad moved into a duplex halfway across town 5 days later. As mad as I was at my mom, I stayed in the house that I had grown up in with her for a few weeks before I went and stayed the night at my dad's, mostly I think because I was more comfortable in what I considered my home. The next year and a half were definitely a year and a half that I wish I could change. For the most part, I switched back and forth every week between the two houses, and I hated it. The days I spent with my mom were usually filled with yelling and arguments. We fought about everything, and it seemed like we never got along at all. It wasn't the normal teenager fighting with their mom sort of thing. It was constant. I was just so angry at her, and she just couldn't understand why. The other problem was that we were so much alike that when we argue, the argument would just go in circles because neither one of us would back down or listen to the other. After a couple of months, Carrie began coming over to the house more, and I would always just shut myself in my room when she was there. I told my mom that it was sometimes weird for me to be around Carrie, so she began not telling me that she was coming over till I saw her van in my driveway when my mom picked me up from school. She went from doing that to telling me when she came to pick me up to telling me in a text when I was still at school so that I would have a chance to plan an escape from them. It wasn't because I didn't like Carrie. I actually did. But at the time, I thought that if I wasn't around the situation, then I didn't have to deal with it and it really had nothing to do with me. Things got turned around again around February of my sophomore year when my mom told me that her and Carrie would be moving in together in June. I told my mom that if she did that, I wouldn't live with her, but in the middle of June, my mom and Carrie moved in together with Carrie's daughter and my brother. I was so mad at her at first and didn't know why she had done it, and I didn't even talk to my mom for a while. I felt almost like I had been abandoned and like she didn't care about me. My mom had her new daughter, this new family, this new house that I wasn't a part of. She didn't need me, and she didn't care about me as much as she cared about them. After a month or two, I did start to miss my mom and tried staying the night at her house a few times, but it always turned into us fighting again because I didn't feel like it was my home. It only took a few months after this for me to realize how stupid I had been this whole time. One day, I finally realized how happy my mom was and asked myself, if mom is happy, why can't I be? Everything she had done wasn't because she didn't care. It was because she did. She was just trying to make herself happy and include me in it, but I wouldn't let her. I was so caught on the negative. I'm being upset about my parents being divorced. I'm being upset and confused about my mom falling in love with a woman that I was completely skipping over the positive. I have two parents that love me and would do anything for me. Even though my parents are divorced, they are still friends, they still talk, and they never fight. My mom and Carrie were going to move to Chico, but stayed in Corning to be closer to my brother and I. My mom is more happy than I have ever seen her. My mom is my biggest fan. It doesn't matter what I am doing, my mom is always there for me and helps me with anything and everything that I could imagine. Now, why couldn't I have just realized all of this before? If I had looked at the good things instead of the bad, my life my freshman and sophomore year of high school would have been so much different. Instead of being unhappy with my life, I could have just been loving it these 2 years. I wouldn't have been pushing my friends away, I wouldn't have been so mean and snappy to people, and I would have been so much happier. If I had loved life, my life would have loved me too. Loving life is also something that I learned from being involved in the Every 15 Minutes program. On our retreat, the group of us shared our stories, and I learned that some of the people that I see at school every day that I consider to be some of the happiest people that I know have gone through things that I could never even imagine. These people are so happy because they don't let the bad things get to them. They look at the good and choose to just let themselves love life instead. I think that everyone has a special strength inside them. No matter what you're going through, this strength allows you to pick out the positive in every situation and focus on that instead of focusing on the bad. This strength isn't as strong in some people as in others, or like me, just takes a long time to come out, but it's there. Finding the positive in situations allows you to be a happier person. It allows you to love life. This, I believe.